right, Infernal Blessings. We are back with another video. Before we begin, a couple quick announcements. All right, so we have a few more weeks of the yearly forecast readings. I'm getting to them as quick as I can. I've been extremely busy with them pretty much since the holidays. But if you want to book your reading, you still have about 3 weeks or so left to do that. In addition to any other type of reading I offer. Klipothic demonic readings, Septima Muerte readings, Egyptian oracle readings, shadow work readings, which is always, again, as I say over and over, a great reading to do if you're looking for direction, right? Shadow work should always be pointing you in the direction as far as your ritual work. It just amazes me, people who claim to do shadow work, but yet are confused about what I should be doing, what ritual should I be doing. That baffles me. But anyway, that's a great reading for that. Maybe you want to do a deity reading to see what gods, goddesses, demons, and spirits walk with you. Maybe you want to do just a spiritual consultation just to kind of see what you got going on. Maybe you got something specific you want to focus on. As I've said before, people use a spiritual consultation. They usually come to it with a list of questions that they want to ask. Or maybe you want to focus on something particular. You can use it for that, all right? If you're interested in any of the aforementioned, shoot me an email, khnum19@gmail.com. That's knum19@gmail.com. Please include in the reading your full availability on a weekly basis and the time zone that you're in will make it work, all right? If you want to sign up for classes, speaking of that, we have class tonight as the recording of this video on February 7th, 2025. But if you want to get in on the classes, people, this is the number one email I get. Baniti, what kind of classes do you? How do I get in on your classes? And the Patreon page, that's the way you get in on the classes. Go to patreon.com/Baniti, Baniti, tier 3. Now, you can sign up for them individually. It just doesn't make sense financially. Where one class is more than, it's double what the monthly membership would be on tier 3. And when you become a member, you got access to everything in the archives, everything, going back 5 years. So you don't just get access from the day you join moving forward, you get access to everything in the archives. If you want to see exactly what type of classes that I'm doing, with 2 new classes added this year in the month of January, the Egyptian Hermetic Alchemy class, along with the Necronomicon class, which was just added, go to patreon.com/Baniti, Baniti. Tier 3 is the tier you want to join. That's going to give you that access to the classes, plus the group ritual we do at the end of the month. I have mentorship tiers on there. But if you go to the Patreon page, go to the collection section and click it, and you will see all of the ongoing classes labeled in numerical order. You can see how many is in each class. It's a lot. That's going to keep you busy for a good amount of time. Probably won't even be able to get to it in this lifetime. No exaggeration. Anyway, check that out. Patreon.com/Baniti, Baniti, tier 3. That's the tier you want to join. And that'll give you access to the 3 private classes I do every month and the ritual we do together as a group at the end of the month. Don't forget to check out the social media pages. Primordial Chaos 9 on Instagram, all one word. Primordial Chaos 2 words on Facebook. Primordial Chaos 3 on TikTok. Obviously support the YouTube channel here, Primordial Chaos. You can stay abreast also in the community section here on the YouTube page. Latest announcements, happenings, classes. Also keep pumping out there now as we are in the 2nd month of the year. The 8th annual Journey of the Black Adept Conference, October 2025. More information to come on that as we get later down the road. All right. You see the title of the video. Some people, and this comes up a lot. I've addressed this before over the years off and on. Probably haven't touched on it in a few years. But this is something that happens because sometimes people experience certain traumas, right? And it kind of carries over into maybe a new spiritual system that they claim they practice in. So, are you suffering from post-traumatic religious syndrome? That's why I titled the video that. Are you suffering from post-traumatic religious syndrome? And most people that are not even aware of it. That's the kind of fucked up part. So let me talk about it real quick. I've explained to you guys over the years I mean, and some of you guys that have been around, even in your own personal journeys and travels and dealing with people, whether that's through classes, functions, events, relationships you have established over the years, etc. I see this a lot, and I see it a lot now. I see it around a lot of people that I deal with now because, as I said, in 2025, this is the year of bullshit being exposed, right? And that, I don't just mean that on a superficial, mundane level. I'm talking about a lot of us are going to get internally, spiritually checked because there's a lot of people faking the fucking funk, and a lot of people have drifted into something because some form of trauma that was triggered led them there, and they're not aware of it. Okay? So I will see people more so, and I'm addressing more so people who come on the path of the occult and the left-hand path. I want to make that clear. As I said before, you got to be built for this shit, right? You got to have a certain toughness, not just physically. You got to have mental fortitude, mental toughness, right? You got to have thick skin. You cannot be worried about what other people think. You've got to have the ability to harness the power of your emotions and know how to facilitate them correctly, which is a very detailed thing that takes a lot of discipline and spiritual practice. This is why everybody's not cut out for this path. But what I find out is people come on this path, and as you heard me say many times over the years, off and on in different videos and classes, lectures, etc., I see people bring their old bullshit with them, right? And I usually see what is the trauma that triggers that. The trauma that usually triggers that is when they activate something within their psyche, whether that was through shadow work, whether that was through, maybe they were working with a specific deity, a spirit, god, goddess, or demon in a particular pantheon, and it really opened up their psyche, and they were not ready for the awareness of what they opened themselves up to. And I keep trying to explain to you guys, understand 3 facets of your mind, which is very important that you understand how they work, how they operate, and how it affects you, knowingly and unknowingly, right? You will find certain people will teach about your superconscious, which your superconscious or superconsciousness connects you to everything outside of person, place, and thing, in addition to inside person, place, and thing, but it connects you to your subjective realms, plural, your subjective universes, plural, again, that vibrate on a frequency beyond 3-dimension of person, place, and thing. This is what you hear people always talking about. We must vibrate to become 5th-dimensional beings. So that's beyond just mental. You're talking about in a state of pure ether or Etherean energy. A pure being of light and energy. Not in that fluffy sense that the New Ages talk about. Not in that religious program sense where they show all the religious characters, the apostles, the prophets, Jesus with some illuminating light. See, they always physically are trying to connect you to the mundane aspects of this shit. We're talking about that pure light or consciousness, that intellect that changes your energy or your vibrational frequency. Okay? That's what we're talking about. I want to make that shit crystal clear. Sometimes people activate something that they're not prepared to put into, assimilate it and put it into its correct perspective for them. So what they do is, again, they don't understand the aspect of the superconscious, the subconscious, and the conscious mind. And I have to reiterate this again, because your conscious mind or your conscious mundane self is your weakest part of yourself. That's the part of you that's always going to latch on to, absorb everything that it might be addicted to, that it has not mastered, and most importantly, that makes itself feel comfortable. So it's the weaker part of you that will always try to find the safest, simplest, easy route out, or the simplest, easiest way to do things, and 9 out of 10 times, it's probably not the best aspect for you. It could be a temporary solution or a fix to the problem, but it's not the answer. Then you have the subconscious mind, which is receiving the messages from the superconscious that I mentioned, where the superconscious connects you to everything that vibrates outside of 3-dimensional. But the problem, it's like the fucked up part is your subconscious mind is kind of like the monkey in the middle or the middleman. It has the task of absorbing everything from the superconscious, but it has the challenge of trying to get the conscious mundane self to see it. And that's the battle. That's the struggle we talk about between the higher self and the lower self that people don't understand. Okay? So the intermediary is the subconscious mind. So when you're doing ritual work, when you're tapping in, you're doing meditations, you're working with deities, gods, goddesses, and demons, you're working a particular grimoire, pantheon, you are opening up and connecting to your superconscious, which opens your psyche, communicates to the subconscious mind. But the battle and the war that you face on this three-dimensional realm, the internal war that you struggle with, is the subconscious trying to unlock and communicate that to your conscious mundane self, who is distracted by all the worldly bullshit and nonsense, sex, food, materialistic shit, lust, anger, greed, all these mortal, mundane, just low-level vibrational shit that keeps you off your game. So what people tend to do is, and I see it all the time, I could be here all day talking about it. I told you, it's always the ones that I've experienced over the years that come on this path, how big and bad they are. I'm so dark, man, nobody want to fuck with me. I fuck with my demons, and I'm so dark, and blah, 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 and blah, blah, blah. Shit starts sounding like Charlie Brown to me. Wah, 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 and all that shit. They're usually the first ones. Usually the first ones to hit the road. Or usually the first ones to activate some type of trauma that scares them back into some bullshit, or some shit they were previously doing, or back into Christianity, or back into being a Buddhist, or back into being into some new age fluffy shit, because all they could do is stay light side. All they can do is stay on the fluffier side of things, because that's all they're built for, and that's just the reality of it. And they deceive themselves in thinking they have a wholeness of, quote unquote, what we would call truth, a complete package of what we would call information and data that they need to master themselves, but they don't. You can't have one without the other. And that applies to people who just want to be dark and gloomy all the time. You need what we call light side philosophy and spirituality too. All that stuff too. But you can't have one without the other. That's where both sides fail to realize. So what happens is when people come on certain paths or they go through certain changes, they gravitate to shit that makes them feel comfortable. It's that simple. They're comfortable, makes them feel safe, they're secure, and they don't have to worry about challenging themselves or being afraid or just not dealing with the unknown of things. And usually also one of the key traumas that scare people back into doing their old shit, right, is when they get to a very low point in their life. I see this all the time. To get into a very low point in their life, I've seen people who've been on this path get scooped right back up into the church, hook, line, and sinker. They might be going through financial problems, personal problems, could be marriage issues, job related. And this is where these predators sit and lurk, where you can't see them. And then they say, well, you know what? See, brother or sister, if you had Jesus, you know, you're being, the devil's got a clutch on you, and so you need to come home to the church. And anything at that point when you're at your lowest moment sounds good. It sounds good to a person who is desperate. And I've seen this. I've watched this recently to somebody I knew I've just saw it recently. I'm talking about very recently. Okay, like in the last month or two. Okay, I've seen this. And that's usually when these deceivers will come in and scoop you up when you're at your lowest. And I tell people, when you're on this path, that's when you need to draw from your spiritual power more than anything, because that's when you're most vulnerable to adverse forces. When I'm saying adverse forces that are adverse to your personal growth and needs, that's when they'll come swooping in with the religious shit. That's when they'll come, certain individuals will be sent to you to try to get your mind even more fucked up. Because like I've said before, look, I'm not going to negate this. You're going to come on this path. You're going to be tried and tested, and it's not going to be easy. Those adverse forces are going to come for that ass, that soul. They're going to come for you to really see okay, this individual, he or she is making the intent to walk this path of self-mastery. Well, let's just see how masterful and strong they are. And then something happens that triggers or activates some trauma, and they fail the test. But I've seen the flip side. I've seen people come out on top like troopers and recognize it. Look, I used to talk about this years ago. Like, this happens to a lot of newcomers. And it happened to me going back years. When you come on a path of awakening, a path of self-mastery that is life-changing, you know what starts to usually happen? Let me tell you what happens. They come for you usually in the beginning, these adverse forces. You start hearing from people you haven't heard from forever. And 9 out of 10 times, they were bad people in your life. Sometimes opportunities that you might have been seeking in the past present themselves, and though they're not good for you now in the current moment in your life, they kind of give off the impression they are. Things just that weren't happening before that you might think in the moment are productive for you, but they really aren't. All these things starting to happen, and it's that first push to get your ass off this path, right? And usually one of the first stages of that is people contacting you out of the blue. And sometimes it could be an individual. I've seen this, maybe it was a bad breakup, right? You were in a relationship, whether you were a man or a woman, and all of a sudden that person out of the blue contacts you, and it's bizarre. Then you start, all these old feelings, nostalgic feelings start to get conjured up. All of that is part of the distraction. If you think you're not going to be tried, tested, and proven on this path, you're fucking delusional, okay? This also explains why we have a small circle. When we say yes, part of this is tapping into the isolated consciousness, right? There's also isolation as a whole on this path, right? And I've always explained this. Though I have people around me, I have friends, I have, you know, as I explained to you before, circles, families. But you can have that stuff around you on this path. But how you know you're really connected, there's still that feeling that this is a journey you're taking by yourself. Though there is that fellowship to a certain degree, there is that connection with others, there is a certain level of group that's there. I'm not saying it's not there. But we who are truly on the path to self-mastery, we know we can't fully depend on that, right? We know at the end of the day, as we travel our spiritual path of destiny, as we evolve and change, that we're going to have to face those wars and those battles alone. When you're in the chamber room, as I told you guys before, there's no books. There's nobody there to help you. When you're doing your personal work, like I said, everything has its place. There's ceremonial magic, there's group magic, right? There's this, there's that, etc. But when you're doing your most important, core work, which is your individual work, there's nothing, nobody can help you. There's only one person that can help you, and that's you, okay? And you have to grasp that. You have to understand that. And until you understand that, you'll never fully be able to make the transition and change, especially if you're carrying old ways, old habits, old methodologies from a previous system that you came from. It's just how it works, okay? So it's very important you're not wasting time and still doing the same mundane shit on a subconscious level. Look, I've explained this before, many times before. I watch people come on this path from other paths, like some form of comedic spirituality. And usually one of my telltale signs of how I can detail it is when people still struggle to identify who and what God is, but they've just replaced one spell of spookism or methodology with another. So they'll start using terms like the Most High. I've had people, like I told you, I had people come over from comedic spirituality refer to Amun-Ra or Ra as the Most High. And then when you call them out on it, their egos get bruised. Oh no, what do you mean? Yeah, but that's religion. Like, what do you mean? The Most High of what? When you're saying the Most High, you're creating the separation. You're creating more gods. And not only that, you're separating yourself and placing yourself in an inferior category. People will use safe terms like the creator, the eternal spirit. They'll just come up with some fluffy ass shit just to make themselves feel comfortable, because at the end of the day, if you ask them to break down who and what God is, they wouldn't even be able to tell you the source. I've heard them all. The source, and I don't hear the one that they should be saying, I am God. Okay? I am the divine, because I am a reflection of the divine. I am the very essence of the Creator, because the Bible even tells me that. Their very Bible tells me that. In the book of Genesis, chapter 2, verse 7, God breathed into man's nostrils the breath of life, and man became a living soul. Right? A nafish is spirit, and ruha is soul. So all of us have the very soul and essence of this Creator that we're alluding to, that exists outside of ourselves. Okay? And that's a whole nother story for a whole nother time. That'll probably be my next video. I'll break that down. So I don't get the one answer that I'm looking for. You are a God. You are a goddess. Start acting like it. Start thinking like it. And start showing that in your actions and your behaviors. You can't say you are and then you're making statements that the Creator exists outside of yourself. Or you're resorting back to old habits that you used to do in previous spiritual systems. That's a sign of somebody who's insecure, running from their fears, and don't really understand themselves. And that's not what this path is about. Okay? Anyway, hopefully that short tutorial, I'm going to wrap this up as I am at my destination, which is to pick up my little man from school. Just want to put out there, I'm going to be hitting the road soon. Man, just put this out there. Be patient if you email me, you're contacting me. Just give a quick rundown. I'll be headed to Buffalo, New York on Friday. My son has a tournament there. I'm going to be there for 4 days. I got to come right back on that Tuesday and head up to Jacksonville, Florida, Friday morning. He's playing in Sayhar, Florida State Championships. I'm headed to Nashville at the end of March, from March 28th to the 30th. I'll be in Denver, Colorado in May. I'm going to be in Chicago second week in April. I will be in Boston, Massachusetts last weekend in June. And I'm waiting on 2 more dates. So I'm going to be hitting the road pretty consistently over the next couple of months in the spring and throughout the summer. A lot of it hockey related, and some of it for other reasons. So yes, beginning next Friday, a lot of travel starts for me. So be patient if you reach out. Hopefully this tutorial helped. Other than that, if you need to reach out to me for a spiritual reading, a consultation, or if you want to sign up for classes, or you need the links to the social media pages, the Primordial Chaos podcast, that link, along with my contact email address, along with the links for the social media pages, and along with the link for the Primordial Chaos Patreon page to sign up for classes. All those links are in the description box of this video that you're watching right now. I think that's my next video. I'm not going to forget that. It's the essence of the Creator. That's going to be my next video. It's enlarged in my head, so it's happening for a reason. But anyway, hope this short tutorial helped. Infernal blessings, and we will talk soon. I'm out of here.